I wish I had learned this truth many years ago. Be thankful for the days, good and bad.
All right, welcome to another episode of Warrior versus Zombie. And today, as always, I have an amazing warrior guest for you, Wanda La Russa. I'll come back to her in a second, but let me remind you of why you're here. Success is a journey, it's not a destination. As warriors, we all have a history of ups and downs, wins and losses that are all part of making us who we are up to this point, and they provide a foundation for our path forward. We all battle our inner zombie, as well as those zombies in our world. And in each episode, I interview warriors who are aspiring leaders from all walks of life, entrepreneurs, artists, health practitioners, business owners, literally any inspired leader that has a story to tell. These warriors have a cause, they have unique value, and a vision that goes generations into the future. And today's guest is absolutely no exception. Wanda La Russa is an awesome warrior. Her 20-plus year warrior journey started in the San Francisco Bay Area, and her unique value is her experience and knowledge of diversity and multi-culturalism. I'm sure we'll hear a little bit about that. She studied human development, self-development, human dynamics, mental health, relationships, and mindset. And she's going to get in our head for sure. Since 2000, she has uplifted individuals of all ages by teaching, inspiring, motivating, and empowering them to enrich and improve and enhance their well-being. Also their personal relationships and their professional lives. So all in one-stop shop, Wanda. That's great. So Wanda has spoken to various groups at retreats, sales trainings, community and corporate events, and her volunteer work includes Soroptimist International, I hope I got that right.
Yes.
And American Business Women's Association and Toastmasters International. Wanda believes, and I believe this too, that a positive approach to any challenge helps people work through difficulties, gain deeper satisfaction, and more fulfilling lives and relationships. Wanda La Russa, welcome to Warrior versus Zombie. How are things in your world today?
Thank you, David. Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat with you all today. Everything is going well in my world. Everything's great.
That's awesome. So we're both here basking in the World Championship. Texas Rangers win, I guess, from last night. I know that neither one of us are that enamored with baseball of the Texas Rangers, but with a name like La Russa, you must have some kind of interest in that, from at least from your family standpoint, right?
I do. I absolutely do. So as you can all see, my last name is La Russa. So I'm actually related through marriage to Tony La Russa, former MLB manager of the Oakland A's, St. Louis Cardinals, and more recently, the White Sox in Chicago. But our family member, Tony, has retired recently, but not really being an avid sports fan, but I did root for the teams that my cousin coached for. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the A's, I'm from Kansas City. So if you want to talk, sports, I'm going to talk to you about the Chiefs. And if the Royals would have done better, I'd have been a lot more excited about a World Championship Royals, which last time that happened was in 2015. Mm-hmm. Good news here in Texas is they've never had a World Championship. They've been like one out away a couple times, but never actually won. So I got to give it to them. This is my hometown. I'm being here about 25 years. So I don't mind, celebrating with them. If they were playing the Royals, we wouldn't be going, but anyway, so, but I do love that. But yeah, the A's used to be the Kansas City Athletics before they moved out to the West Coast. So I did grow up in my younger days as an athletics fan or an A's fan.
Okay.
So there is a connection. See, there's,
there is.
The world is very small, but I'm actually excited that I'm talking to someone who's related by marriage to Tony La Russa, and
Awesome.
and that's very cool. Well, let's do this. I really want to get into, I want the audience to hear your story. I haven't heard it all myself. Gave a little bit of background there, but I want to hear how you got from where you started, and you get to pick where that is.
Okay.
To where we are today. So let's take a quick break for the audio audience. You'll hear a little of our theme song, It's Not the Getting There by Ricky Jean Wright. And we'll be right back with Wanda La Russa and hear her story on Warrior versus Zombie.
But the miles become the teacher while the student learns real slow, traveling blind most of the time. Wherever you go, it's not the getting there, it's the journey every day. It's not a race to see.
All right, we are back. And Wanda, I can't wait. Let's hear your story. Tell me how you got from where you started to where you are today.
Well, I'm going to take it way back. So I am a professional speaker, a women's positivity coach. And people often wonder, well, how did that happen? And like Mark Twain said, the two most important days in your life is the day that you were born and the day that you find out why. And so I know that I stepped into my purpose back in elementary school. So back in elementary school, which is in the mid-70s, I knew how to tie my shoes with shoelaces at a very young age. And I taught one of my classmates how to tie her shoe. Now, this is long before Velcro or before you can just slip your foot into a shoe. But actual shoelaces, I actually taught her how to tie her shoelace. She was just beaming with delight. She was running through the playground, screaming, and everyone was asking her, why are you so excited? And she said, because Wanda taught me how to tie my shoe. Now, this is during recess. And before long, I actually had a line of other classmates they wanted me to teach them how to tie their shoes. Now, this is before my entrepreneurial spirit kicked in. I probably could have made a small fortune by charging everyone their lunch money. But, I did it because I like helping. But I taught about a dozen of my classmates how to tie their shoelaces. And that brought me so much joy. And that's when I realized that I'm an altruistic person. It brings me joy when I am doing something for someone else. So that's where it really began. And I thought about, different careers. On the first day of school, elementary school, one of the first assignments is, what'd you do last summer? Or what'd you do over the summer? And also, what do you want to be when you grow up? So I went through a lot of different things, but as I got older, I just realized that I really enjoy helping other people. And so I actually became an elementary school teacher. So I was a teacher in Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area. And I truly enjoyed teaching the children their, reading, writing, arithmetics, and all of those things, teaching them about science and about their bodies. I really enjoyed it. And at that time, I started going to a lot of in-home parties, direct sales parties at my girlfriend's houses. It would be anything from plastic containers to cosmetics. But I started really listening to the compensation plan because the hostess or the consultant or distributor who was conducting the party, at the very end of the party, it was always two things they would ask. Do you want to host a party or do you want to join my team? So I started really thinking about a lot of the different compensation plans. And I was thinking, although I love being an elementary school teacher, I thought maybe it might be time to do something a little bit different. Because being a teacher is not just a 9 to 5. I mean, you're after school. There's weekends when you're grading papers. There's lots of trainings. And I had a child at the time. And I really wanted to spend some more time with my son. And so I, as I mentioned, looked at different compensation plans and thought, okay, this is still a way for me to teach about a product that will enhance someone's life or teach them something new. And I decided to join a company, a direct sales company. So I retired from teaching and decided to be in direct sales. I was my own boss and I was able to teach people about the product, ways that it would enhance their lives. And just my customers and my clients and the people who were at those parties would say to me, you have really explained things in a way that we really can grasp. You're very inspiring, very empowering, very educational, and just my deliverance. Sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So I know I have that ability to connect with people. That's something else I was blessed with, the gift to gab. So I love talking, I love conversation, I love chatting. Within that company, I was asked not only to, because I built my own team, not only to train my team, but I was also asked to train in district levels and even at some of the conventions and conferences. So I continued with that and just hearing from a lot of different meeting planners. So managers and executives from other direct sales was asking me to come in and train their teams as well. And I thought, this is something that I would really like to consider doing, leaving the direct sales and becoming a professional speaker. My niche, I speak primarily to groups of women. I speak to women at their conferences, retreats, also corporate as well. So that's how I became a speaker, just being altruistic and enjoying having some information, having some knowledge, and sharing that and giving others tips and tools to help them improve their lives.
Wow. There's a lot of things in that journey that really fascinate me. One is the teacher in you that you discovered very early. And that's sometimes, then life gets in the way, things change, and you kind of realize those things. So you kind of went through that. Let me ask you this. So you as you were going through those various transitions from, your first recognition that you really loved altruism, helping other people, teaching, then moving into the classroom. And I actually ran a Christian school for a little bit, so I understand the challenges teachers are the most undervalued. When you talk about compensation plan, there's no way to pay teachers as much as they're worth, in my opinion. So also found I've done some of the direct sales or those kind of been a part of those, understood those ever since back when Amway started, like those kinds of things, right? So I know what those are, and great business models. And the thing is, the big thing there is teaching. It's basically duplicating yourself, right? It's helping other people to learn how to tie their shoes. So I think that's an interesting metaphor, if you will, because people come into those kind of businesses and they're not business people, they're employees usually, and they're not business owners, they're consumers. So they know how to consume, but how do you teach, or how do you educate somebody on how to use a product, or how to take advantage of a compensation plan and those kinds of things? So that's fascinating. So tell me about the zombies, the encounters along the way, just through that part of it, going from, what kind of things showed up? Because we all have challenges, right? So any challenges along the way there?
I did have some challenges, going from being a school teacher to direct sales. And the challenges were, I was surrounded by a lot of supportive other consultants and such. And what I fell into was the comparison. Like, this person was able to build a big team, or this person was able to be elevated to a different, to a level. And I may be struggling with building a team or elevating and getting a new title. And what I had to realize was that this is my journey. This is my journey, and that's her journey or his journey. And I had to step away from the comparison. I had to realize that if I'm giving 110% and doing the best that I could do, then that's what I had to accept. And so those were some of the zombies. It was sometimes we are our own worst critic. And it was a lot of that comparison. And I had to step away from that and shut down those negative thoughts and just embrace positivity and realize, appreciate the people that were on my team, appreciate the titles that I did achieve, and just keep moving forward to achieve greater.
Yeah. And that is a big zombie, frankly, for most people, is one of looking at what other people are doing and then comparing yourself to other people. It doesn't even have to be in in a business world or a team, people look at that and they say, okay, I'm either better than them or I'm different than them. And how can they do that when I can't? All those kinds of things. And you're right. I mean, the overcoming that is really getting within yourself, realizing that you are, as you say, on your journey, and that's all you can own, right? You could own your journey and your ability. Any other challenges along there? Any life challenges? I mean, one of the things that occurs to me, and maybe this wasn't a challenge for you, but did you, as you were teaching and then you kind of segued into some direct sales, did that start as a side gig? Did you, I mean, a lot of people.
Actually, it did. It started. And, and sometimes in our lives, you may have a naysayer, negative Nellies, and some people, their opinions were, you're an excellent teacher. Can you please stay? Don't leave us. And so there was that heartstring, pulling at the heartstrings and wondering, I went to college, I have my degree. Is it in my credentials? Is this something that I really need to do? And, sometimes when you sit and think about things, sometimes I just didn't know if I was making the decision, that decision was being made from the flesh or from the spirit, if you will. And so there was a bit of that challenge as well. But as I continued to really think about it and talk to some of my mentors, I realized I was making a good decision to transition. Sometimes you don't know where your talents lie unless you try different things. And I believe that. I believe that you grow. Sometimes we may put our seeds in one place, but that if you have more seeds to sprinkle, you can grow in other areas of your life.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. And I mean, I think that's a pretty powerful lesson to be learned there, is that when you I'm a heart-centered person, I try to be, and I try to do things that I love. And that means that when I get in an organization, like in a school especially, you've got people that are counting on you. They look to you. You love it. You have to love it. I used to tell people all the time, if this isn't something you love, if this isn't a ministry to you, I'm a Christian. I think you know that. I think we've talked about that.
Yes.
Not that I beat people over the head with that, because I think being a Christian is the best thing ever, because life is real simple. I only got two jobs. One is to love God and the other is to love you. I don't have to like you. I don't have to agree with you. I don't have to want to hang out with you, but I do have to love you. I have to figure out how to do that. So that makes life real simple. I don't have to, it's not my job to judge. It's not my job to tell you how to do your life. But we get into that where we love people so much, or we love what we're doing, that sometimes taking that step out and getting out of your comfort zone, getting out of that very positive environment sometimes, that even when it's the best, right? Changing to something that's going to move you forward on your journey, from whether it's compensation, whether it's lifestyle. I mean, I retired 18 years ago at the end of this month, but I didn't retire to do nothing. I just was putting 4 million miles on airlines. And even though they were paying me $1 million a year, it wasn't a compensation plan. It was just that the lifestyle. So we all go through those things. Anything else on your journey before we get to today? We'll take a break after we get through this, but anything else story to tell, to share?
Well, it was very interesting, because as I was going back to the direct sales and I was saying that, comparing myself to people, that's where I really learned the importance of having an affirmation and having a mantra. And so as soon as I understood how important that was, that's how I would start my day. I would start my day saying something positive to myself, because what you think about is what you bring about. And it's really interesting, because within that particular direct sales company, I went from not really having a big team and not elevating to I actually won a major contest and was acknowledged throughout the entire company. And that's simply because I changed my mindset.
Well, the mind, as I say, we have zombies in our mind as well as in our world. It's interesting, because when I have guests on this podcast, I've heard everything from cancer, childhood rape, hurricanes, you name it. You can't even probably, skeletal decapitation, that they've survived or moved forward with. I mean, there's so many things that can impact us, but it's the ones in our mind. It's the ones that we embrace, the zombies that we won't overcome, or we won't allow ourselves to overcome sometimes. And that comfort zone, that comparison, that reminding yourself that everything is possible and you are perfect, on a regular basis, and not, I think that's beautiful. Well, that's great. Well, let's do this. If we missed anything in the story that becomes relevant, but I want to take a break and hear a little more of our theme song. When we come back, I want to talk about why you're doing what you're doing today and the value that you see yourself providing. And I could already see a lot of value just in hearing your story, and then what kind of impact. So let's take a quick break, hear a little more of our theme song from Ricky Jean Wright, and we'll be right back with Wanda La Russa and Warrior versus Zombie.
How many people know your name? One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know. Funny how wisdom and youth.
All right, Wanda, there's a lot of parallels there. I knew we were aligned, and I'm always fascinated when I talk to warriors that God brings into my path, that how many alignments there are. So tell me, why are you doing what you're doing today?
I want to help people live the best lives. And I know that I was called to do this. I've been called and told that I was a beacon of light for others. I really motivated and inspired a lot of people, individuals, couples. And like I said, Mark Twain, as I said earlier, I know my purpose and I'm stepping into my purpose, and I know that I'm fulfilling my destiny. This is my journey. My journey is to help people. And at a very young age, I was very, very close to my great-grandmother, very, very wise. Her name was Geneva. She was born in 1910, and she lived to 2014. She was 104 years young.
Wow.
Passed away. And she was a very, very wise woman, and she was the person who I looked up to. She was the most positive person that I knew. She, the saying, there's a silver lining in every cloud. That was her mindset. I'll tell you, David, if I were to say to her, oh my goodness, they've cut off my left leg, she wouldn't allow me to blame or complain. She would say, well, at least you have a right leg to stand on. So in a different situation, she had a sunny disposition. Every situation, she was always smiling. She just evoked such positivity. And at a very young age, that's what I soaked up. And so I always had a very, very positive mindset. And I remember just sitting with her. She loved tea. She's from Mississippi. She's from the South. So she loved tea. So whenever I would go and visit her, depending on the time of the day, it'd either be a hot cup of tea, or if it was in the evening, it'd be some really, really sweet tea. But just sitting and having tea with her and just listening to her pearls of wisdom. And she was a Christian, and she always talked about just living life and being positive. It's like the saying goes, what you think about is what you bring about. And I just have always received the compliments or people saying to me that I'm such a motivational, inspirational person. And so when I was leaving the direct sales, I thought, okay, well, what am I going to do next? And I've actually had people say to me, you should be a motivational speaker. You should be an inspirational speaker because you have a message. You have the knowledge and the tools to help people to live a better life. And one of my favorite quotes is from Mahatma Gandhi, and he said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others, which is why I completely enjoy volunteering, helping others. I enjoy speaking and helping others. And even from the testimonies after some of my workshops or my talks, just getting the information, getting the feedback that I am doing what I'm supposed to do. And I'll tell you, David, I'm saying this in a form of, I give myself a huge pat on the back because I know I'm doing what I should be doing to help others. And that makes me very proud that I have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I totally relate to you right with that. I mean, I think that the ability to serve others, feel like your grandmother is a great testimony. Great-grandmother is a great-grandmother, I guess.
Yes.
104 years old. See, that to me is one of the key things about retirement. Because if you retire the way most people, when I said I'm retired, almost a lot of times people say, you can't be that old. And I said, no, I retired with 4 of my 5 kids still in middle school and high school. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't retiring from life. I wasn't retiring from providing value. I found what I want. I knew I needed to find what I wanted to do, and I found it. And it's a lot about just the thing you're talking about. By the way, motivational and inspired speakers, I've been told the same thing. I don't want to be a motivational speaker because I want to be an inspirational speaker. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want people to, within themselves, tap into their spirit, their purpose, and move forward in that, not me manipulating. Because to me, motivation can be manipulating, right? Because you're doing something and you're getting them. So I know it seems like a fine line to people, but I think because you kept using those terms, I think you have the inspirational makeup that they're talking about. But your grandma, if somebody says you want to live long, fulfill your purpose, have a positive attitude, realize that you've got value. So as you move forward in this as an inspirational speaker, as someone who's out there trying to serve others, what kind of impact are you hoping to have? What kind of scale, that kind of thing?
The impact that I want to make is I want people to realize how important self-care and self-love is. And self-care and self-love, everything starts with a thought. Everyone has thoughts in their heads, and it starts with the thought, because what you think about is what you bring about. And speaking of the difference between motivation and inspiration, it's interesting because some people do not give themselves permission to love themselves. They're allowing outside forces, outside people or coworkers or social media to dictate the things that they're thinking. And so when I'm providing tips and tools, I'm actually giving some people permission to think kindly of themselves. The best way you could be a good spouse, a good parent, a best coworker, it starts within. It's really important. I want to really emphasize that self-care, you have to take care of yourself before you can give to other people. And it all starts with the thoughts, the way that you see yourself. It helps you build your self-esteem, your self-love, your self-care. It all starts within. And so that's what I hope to do. I hope to give people the inspiration and the tools that they need so that they can be the best people that they could be.
And that's so powerful. I mean, it's not selfish.
Not at all.
To fill your cup before you try to share it with others. So even if you say, I want to do what Wanda does, or I want to have that kind of impact, it starts with, like they say, when you're on a plane, if the plane's going down, the oxygen mask drops, right? You put it on yourself first, because you've got to keep yourself alive. You've got to make sure, because that's the thing, is people are trying to give what they don't have.
That's right.
Yeah.
You can't give from an empty cup. And self-care is not an activity. Self-care is a lifestyle. Even in my talks, I give some tips on how you can do, take a bubble bath, take a walk, read a book. And there's this word called busy. People are so busy and they're giving it to other people that they're empty and they're depleted. How can you give from an empty container? You have to fill your own container up. So let's get rid of the word busy. Sometimes I'll call my friends, how have you been? Busy. What have you been up to? Oh, I've been so busy. Busy. It's okay that you're accomplishing some goals and accomplishing some tasks, but within all of that, it's really important to slow down and take care of yourself so that you can give to others.
I totally agree with you. In fact, when I work with clients and they'll say, I'm so busy. And I'll say, is that the objective?
Mm-hmm.
Was that your objective? If that's your objective, then you're very successful.
Right.
If that's not the objective, if you're not striving just to be busy for the sake of being busy, then let's talk about, what you really want to be, what kind of impact you want to have. What does that ideal day look like to you? I mean, I live a version. To retirement to me is not doing nothing. It's doing what I want, when I want, with who I want, where I want, living a version of my ideal day every day and having the impact at the end of the day, whenever that comes, that I'm meant to have. And hopefully God keep me around here for the years of man, 120, that I can live with the vitality of a 30-year-old and the impact of every new day being a great thing. I think that's what I hear you saying, that you're striving for, that's the fire within you. So anything else? What other, any other impact?
Well, it's interesting that I recently watched a documentary, and it's about the blue zones. Are you familiar with blue zones?
Yep, absolutely. The ones that live for a long period of time, and and a lot of that is not what you would think, right?
That's right. And the blue zones are concentrated areas where people are living to over 100 years old, centurions. And I watched the documentary, and it's really interesting watching their lifestyles are very simplistic without a lot of outside noise. It's about just taking the time to smell the roses, if you will, taking the time to breathe, knowing your purpose, fulfilling your purpose, spending quality time with your loved ones, being outdoors, getting fresh air, getting the vitamin D. So it's really important. Worrying. One of the centurions said, life happens. Worrying is not going to solve any problems. To be as stress-free as possible. And so I watched the documentary, and I'm doing my best to take some of their advice, and so that I can live a happy, full life. Healthy, happy, full, and healthy. Yes.
Well, you got your great grandma as an example, so that's an amazing thing. Yeah. Well, let's do this. Where I can tell already we can talk for a long time. And by the way, you and I are going to get together after I think you're going on a cruise or whatever, and going to have really. Well, I'm jealous. Actually, I'm going on a cruise in December with my family. Right. So I love cruising. So
vitamin D is vitamin C. Vitamin C is good for the soul.
Yes, it is. Yes. The cruise is definitely something I learned to enjoy. With 5 kids, cruising was something where you could get away and you didn't have to worry about traveling and packing and unpacking and all that stuff, and you could get a pretty good break in a week, which is hard to do if you're traveling on the ground, because you got to check in, check out, do all that stuff. Anyway, that's fascinating. Well, let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and the last break, and then we'll come into what I call the land the plane segment. I'll give you a minute to think about it, but when we come back, I want to make sure that the audience doesn't miss anything you think is the most important for us to take away from this discussion. All right, so let's take a quick break. We'll be back again for our final segment of Warrior versus Zombie with Wanda La Russa.
Funny how wisdom and youth are always 2 different games. The years flew by so fast, is the common human complaint. The memories in our minds turn to diamonds in our soul, and by the grace of God, on down.
All right, Wanda. Wow. Good energy, a lot of fun, and who knows what's going to happen. There's so many things. I've got so many ideas for you, even on this Be Connected platform, this project that we've been working on since 2020. Probably some synergy there with what you're doing, and I'm glad you're here with me there. So, but tell me, if we take away anything from this discussion, and maybe you hadn't got to it yet, what would you want to make sure we take away?
I want to make sure that you take away knowing the importance of smashing ants. I have not talked about that. ANT stands for automatic negative thoughts. It's really important to squash those ants. So let's say, David, you walk into your kitchen in the morning to make yourself a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, or what have you. And on your counter, a trail of ants has discovered your sugar bowl. What are you going to do to them?
Got them, stomp them, right?
Right. Exactly. Right. We're going to kill them. We're going to exterminate them. We're going to get rid of them. And so ANT stands for automatic negative thoughts. And even though you may have positive thoughts, it doesn't mean that you won't ever have automatic negative thoughts. It just means that you won't let them control your life. So you don't want to get rid of them. And what you should do is you should recognize it, challenge it, and turn it around. You want to turn it into a pat, a positive automatic thought, like giving yourself a pat on the back. So once you recognize that a negative thought is entering your mind, get rid of it quickly, turn it around, and think something positive. So I really want everyone just to remember the importance of focusing on the positive, because what you're thinking about is what you'll manifest. If you focus on a lot of negativity, that's exactly what's going to show up. Focus on the positivity, and that's exactly what will show up. So that is my message. My message is about having a positive mindset, because it all starts with mindset.
I love it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you basically put in and get out, plant those seeds, you put it in. I now understand also why you were talking earlier about those affirmations, that positive, because if you put that in, then you fill up your thoughts with those, and it's a little harder for those ants to find your sugar, if you will. So right. I can see that as well. Well, this is great. Thank you. It's been an awesome journey. I'm looking forward. We're give a little plug. We're going to do kind of a de-stress your holiday kind of mastermind or event coming up in a couple of weeks from now. After you get back, you'll be all nice and rested and tanned and all this other stuff and ready to serve. And we're going to do an event in a couple of weeks. But how do we, you're on the Be Connected platform. So anybody seeing this on the channel and Be Connected, you can reach out to Wanda. I know she's on the platform. I know you can find her. She's started down that process. And I think she's going to be a leader here. She doesn't know it yet, but anyway, so how else do we stay in touch with you, Wanda? What's the best way other than that to reach out to you?
The best way is to head on over to my website. It's the spelling of my first and last name, no spaces. It's WandaLaRussa.com. My name is right there on the screen. As I said, no spaces. It's all one word. WandaLaRussa.com. And if you head on over to my website, you'll be able to input your information and you will receive a free downloadable, which is Wanda's Ways to Live Positively. I give you some things, some tips and some tools of things you could do in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening to help you on your journey of living a positive life.
That is beautiful. And I'm sure that people go, by the way, for those listening, if you're driving on the audio, I will have the website and the links to find her on Be Connected and stuff in the show notes. So regardless of where you're at, and if you're, again, you're seeing the audio and video, you'll see it there as well. Well, Wanda, it's been awesome. Thank you. I knew it would be great, and it has been. So thank you.
And David, I thank you for the opportunity. I enjoyed myself today. Thank you so much.
Yes, it's always fun. Well, we're going to have to land the plane, so we'll hear the final outro of It's Not the Getting There for the audio audience. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Warrior versus Zombie.
It's not the getting there, it's the journey every day. It's not a race to see how many people know your name. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there, When you get there, you'll know.